Hi everyone. We talked about different aspects about the culminating project, P2, where we came from when we began in the semester, and the additional files that were used between A5 and Project 2. We added customer.jsp. We changed a little bit of the functionality of customer form.jsp. I did a contrast and comparison between customer form.jsp and customer.jsp. Showed the changes in thanks.jsp. One thing that I didn't discuss is the meta-inf, the context.xml. And you don't have to do anything to that. You can leave it as is. It will work out of the box exactly as per assignment number 5. What I'd like to talk about now is modify.jsp, and that's this file right here. This is modify. Even though it looks like it's part of the servlet, it's not. The servlet is just passing the data, transferring the logic that was used in the servlet to this file right here. And this is thanks. So let me close out of that. That's from the previous video. What I'm going to open up now is modify.jsp. I'm going to make it larger and go through the code here. Let's see. Yep. And make it larger. Okay. So pretty much everything you can use from customer form.jsp or customer.jsp. You could use everything to right here. Actually, right here. Now, customer.jsp, because you want to make sure that we're adding the header, the project 2 header. Okay, that comes right here, just like in customers. Right? So when I did a delete, you notice that they're the same there, right? I have this header minus the h2 tag, but using the same header. And then here's my h2 tag. It says customers. So when you could see that right there, that's the customers. Now it has one other feature, and that is this. It has an add button, and that add button is right here, and you could see it right there. You could have made a link, but using a button is just easier to see, and user won't have to look anywhere to find the add button. It's pretty obvious there, just like the edit and delete buttons as well too, which you could also make as links rather than buttons. But I used an add button here. Notice that it is going to, here, this is actually going to here, CRUD, and we have an info. It's not going to the admin package, but to the info package. Okay, that's where it's going. Right there, customer servlet. We'll talk about what changes we did over here as well too. But anyway, make sure that you put this in there with the annotation. Remember, we're using annotation. That's not actually the name of the servlet, but because we have an annotation, it's going to look like it in the URL. So customer admin is the annotation, and you need this code. All right, let's continue moving on. So you're going to need all your headers. This is just testing, so you don't have to worry about this. But you're going to need your headers here. And I'm going to see how much of this I could actually show. I'll stop it right here. So here's your head, and all that is showing is this. Right? It's just showing that. That's your head, table head. And there it is right there. Excuse me. And now we're showing the body using tBody tag. And I will stop right here. All right. Notice we're using a tag library. We're using user dot instead of customer dot. And again, this is modified.jsp page. This is this file right here, modified.jsp. It should say user dot, not customer dot. We also have some other buttons as well too. This is for the edit button and this is for the delete button. Let's take them one at a time. Notice that each button is essentially its own form. So here's the edit button right here. Notice how it's processed, and also notice that what's happening is we're using this cout structure in a looping syntax, and it's a lot easier to do it like this because what's happening is we're using the tag library, we're using the for each element tag, and then we're saying that the var is going to be user, and then we're going to loop through each one of these users. We're going to loop through them and get all the first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, phone, email, balance, total sales. We're getting all, this is an object variable, and we're getting the property for notes, total sales, balance, etc. for each one of the users. So again, it's really neat. Java Server Pages makes it real easy to do that, but you have to pull in the tag library first to do that using the for each structure, and then loop through all the records. Here we're going to create an edit button for each one of the records. Here we're going to create a delete button for each one of the records. Here we're ending the for each. We're ending the body. We're ending the table. And then we're back into the remaining portion of the files just like it was before. Adding the footer to it just like we did before in customer form and customerform.jsp and customer.jsp. All right, let's go back up here and talk a little bit more about this because there's a lot going on here. So again, the first thing we do is we add our header here. The table ID is my class. All this is used for is for the if we're going to do any data validation, we could use that, but we're not here. I included the data validation, but there's no data validation to do in this file. So it's just carried over from another file. But here, it is a responsive table. So you can see when I make it, I make the width narrow, that it still is responsive, right? And I could emulate or simulate a smaller device, and you could see that it is in fact responsive, that I could use the tables just as is. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is this is just a table header, right? This is just a table header right here, just indicating what's going to be in the rows that follow. So this is not in the looping structure yet. Here we start the body. We pull in our tag library so that we can use the looping structure for each, create our variable user, and we loop through all the users, getting their first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, phone, email, balance, total sales, and notes. Then we make sure we have an edit button for each one. Notice in that edit button where it's going to. It's going to the customer admin annotated servlet, which I'll show you later. The form ID is just edit customer form. You're just using that as an ID. Notice the hidden field. That's important. We have a hidden field here. And what that is doing is capturing from the database the user ID. And it's also capturing that from an object that we created, an object of user that you'll see here shortly. It's a user object, and the user has all of the data from our customer table. The ID, the primary key, which is important because the primary key identifies each record uniquely, first name, last name, and all the other attributes. And we do the same thing for our delete button. Same thing for our delete button. The only difference, gang, is this. We have the ID, we have this on submit. And what that does is JavaScript that prevents the user from inadvertently deleting the data. Now, they still could inadvertently delete the data, but at least you give them an a prompt indicating, hey, do you really want to delete this record? Now, notice they can't delete all the records, but they can only delete that one. And that comes from this onSubmit JavaScript. Return, let me make that a little bit larger so you can see the code there. Okay, onSubmit, return a confirm. This is a confirm prompt right here. That's what that is. Okay. And you just put in a value. Do you really want to delete a record? And be careful here, gang. Make sure that you're using single quotation marks here, because you cannot use double quotation marks inside of double quotation marks. Now, we already have double quotation marks here and on the outside right here. So we have to use single quotation marks on the inside. The ID is edit customer form. The action is going to the servlet. It's going to be using the post method. And again, we do the same thing. We pass the user's ID. But here, we're saying we're going to pass a value, name display customer. Why? Because after we make a modification to a user, we want to make sure that it goes back to displaying all the customers. And where is that? Well, that's the modified.jsp file. So it'll go back to show the results and the modified.jsp file. For the delete, again, we have a different name. So for delete, we have a different name here, and that is delete underscore customer. And for the name for the edit is just display underscore customer. Okay, that's all you have to do for, and this is the rest of it right here to global footer. There's some other data in here as well too, which, I will show this. This has to do with the data tables. This has to do with the data tables. So here we're pulling in the JavaScript. Here's our footer. Here is the end starter template and container, which you've seen before. And here is our include for the JSP. Let me show that real quick. Let me put that. I had it commented out. Oops. Let me do that back again. I have this include here. And let me save that. And let me click continue. Whoa. Let's see. That happened because it's unterminated. I have my comments here. Let me save that. This is the code right here that you have to include. And let me refresh that page. And there it is. So you'll see that it has the additional functionality added to it. And that is that you can show entries up to how many you want. You could do a search. I could do a search here for, I'll say, I'll do a search on city. Okay, so I'll just do Charleston, and you could see that it automatically starts pulling up everything from Charleston. What if I do something else? I'll do a search on Sue, S-U-E, and it pulls up the last name Sue. It'll do everything. I'll put up notes. How about notes 2? So pull up everything there. So it's a real neat functionality, and all you have to do for that is just add this JS include here, plus what you want to do is add the rest of this code right here. So you could pause it, add the code. If you have this has to do with the functionality of data tables, and for this to work, you want to make sure your table above is named with the ID my table. Okay, and I showed that to you up here. So here is my table ID, and then you can get some really nice data table. What's called data tables, and the functionality provides sorting, pagination. You have to make sure you include this JavaScript that I provided for you since the beginning, and this page. Again, just you could pause it right here and fill that in. Let me make it a little bit larger in case you're having issues being able to see. Make sure, gang, that you have the correct. What may trip you up is you got to make sure you have parentheses where they're parentheses. Make sure you have curly brackets where they're curly brackets. Okay, here's the parenthesis and a curly bracket. Here are square brackets right here, 2 of them. Okay, and I have comments there for you why you need those. Here is the nulls. You don't want ordering, or I should say, we're going to have sorting here on our straight. Like I could do sorting here. Just click on that. Be ascending. Click it again. It's descending. Do the same thing with email or balance. So balance is ascending and descending, right? But we don't want here. We don't want to show anything for our edit and delete, right? We don't want to. We're not going to sort on edit and delete. We could sort on notes, but we're not going to sort on edit and delete. And that's why we have the last 2 orderable false. And be careful, there is no comma after the last option right here. Okay. Again, be careful the square brackets and the curly brackets with the parentheses. Okay, that's it. The other thing, you have pagination, right? So you could select any number. I have it here set from 10, 25, 50, and all. And you could do the, you could review this link right here to find out how to do data tables. Here are the properties that you can modify to get what you want for the length for the entries, depending on how many entries are entered there. You could also have pagination, so if there's more than 10, you can click next, and it'll keep a record of all the pages here. Like I said, you could do searches, you could do sorts as well too. So it's a very useful functionality to have to include that in your mobile first design. Again, you need all of this to be able to do that. Okay? All right, I'll end that with that, and then we're going to go for the next video. We're going to actually go into the classes and the servlets, and I'll show you what changed there as well. All right, gang, see you in another video.